We're talking 90% retail alone plus ownership, and the stock loses 80% of its value. Like mathematically, that is impossible. Welcome back, YouTube. So in today's video, I'm going to give you my top 4 reasons why I'm still holding AMC. And I think it's really important to dissect that as we go through the motions and as this play has been extended past a lot of people's expectations over the last year. And I think that it's very important that we look at what's actually happening. And I think that it will restore faith in a lot of people and in their lack of patience here. But when you look at the fundamentals, this is from the TA. This is my reason number 1. And this is just more from an evaluation from a technical standpoint. And that is, if you look at the chart here, and even at its peak, let's say around May, June of last year, at its peak, we were generating less revenue and we had less ownership of the actual stock. And from a technical standpoint, it makes no sense for us to be at these numbers that we are now. And we can dive into that a little bit later, but just look at from the ownership standpoint and the revenue standpoint. And you'll see that our peak, and this is literally the available shares, and this is how you know that supply and demand is not at work here, but there's something else going on here that is dramatically affecting the price, which we're also going to talk about. But that alone lets me know that this is not the true price that we're seeing at the moment. And even just looking at it from a technical standpoint, just growth wise, if you double the revenue from an Apple, Amazon, or Walmart, the stock does not go down. Like this is one of the, outside of like shorts and stuff like that, and then the SEC not doing anything. The biggest frustration that I have here is the fact that they're watching this and you say, oh, this company has doubled in revenue, but logically, I guess to their logic at least, the stock is now worth less money. And this is not how evaluation is done. You don't make more money and then your company loses value. That's not how this works, at least in a natural supply and demand, or at least how it's supposed to work. The second thing is, if we add up the 90% of the shares that Adam Aron says that retail holds, and the amount of shares that the institutions have, that the filings that they have, which is literally over 100 or so million, that puts our total as of like a month or so ago at around 700 million shares at least. So that would mean either the institutions are lying about how many shares that they hold, which they technically cannot do because it gets filed in the SEC statement, or Adam Aron is lying about how many shares of retail holds, which he technically can't do because that gets shared on an SEC statement. So unless there are an astronomical amount of shorts here to push this price down to the levels that we're seeing here, because, or like we're saying, synthetics. There's synthetic shares that have been created and then borrowed multiple times that allows 700 million shares to exist. That is my number 2 reason. Number 2 reason that the numbers are simply not adding up. My number 3 reason is when we see massive price action in something like AMC. Like a few weeks ago, we went from 23 bucks to around 26 bucks, and the stock was halted. And then we've seen over the last few weeks, we've seen stocks run up several 100%, some of them several thousands of %. And no halts at all. But AMC goes up $2-3 bucks, and all of a sudden it's a panic, and you got to pump the brakes, and it's a halt going on less than 30 minutes into market open. And if you couple that with FTDs and the threshold list, I think Ape is on the FTD list right now because they can't produce the shares. And this is literally just like I said, where there's smoke, there's fire. This is further evidence here that they do not have the shares that they're saying that they do. You look at the short interest rate and stuff like that. I think they're saying around 21% of the free float of shares right now is being shorted, which is around like 111 million roughly. And you do the math on that, you say, oh, well, there should be plenty of shares available. Why is it being halted? Why can't you produce the shares? What's going on with the FTD list? There should be, plenty of shares available, but we know that's not the case. So that is my 3rd reason for not selling my AMC shares. My 4th reason is just by compiling the previous 3 reasons and looking at the chart here. This is literally like from the beginning of the squeeze play up until now. You look at it from a logical standpoint and you say that there's no way that a share can be, let's just say 20 bucks, generating less revenue. And at the height of, buying and supply and demand and stuff like that, we're up here May, June of last year. And since then, let's couple everything together. Since then, we're no longer threatening for bankruptcy. We've quadrupled our income, more than doubled the share ownership, supply and demand here at work, expanded the business into different areas that's not longer completely depending on movie revenue. And somehow the share loses more than 80% of its value. You cannot, just from a technical supply and demand standpoint, if you have a set amount of shares, the only logical explanation for all of this is synthetic shares and ridiculous shorting. Because if you have a set amount of shares and you are at a certain price point, let's just say 20 bucks at 20% ownership, and you go from 20% ownership to 90% plus ownership. We're talking 90% retail alone plus ownership, and the stock loses 80% of its value. Like, mathematically, that is impossible. Even if you shorted every share once, you still shouldn't be able to come up with that number. And we know that people have turned off share lending, and it's just like, even if let's just say 50% of the people have said that, hey, we're going to allow shorting and stuff like that. We know that 21% even right now is being shorted. And if that's the totality of the amount of shorts that's in the shares, how do you explain the price action? How do you explain that? Let's just say if it's only 20% like it's showing right now, how do you explain 111 million shares being shorted and the price action that we saw last year compared to where it is right now? The math does not add up. And like I said earlier, when there's smoke, there's fire. So I'm holding my shares because I know that this is all BS. I know that this is manipulation at its finest. This is going to be one of the plays that is going to push the agenda to a more fair market for all. And I know what this play represents, and I know why it's been dragging out so long, because this is literally a crucial turning point when it comes down to trading. You let me know your reasons in the comment section as to why you're not holding. Let me know if some of my reasons are some of your reasons. I'd love to hear why everyone is still in the play. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel for more from me, and I will see you guys in the next one.